We are taught to fear the grand betrayals. The lipstick on the collar, the secret phone calls, the explosive fight that ends it all. But there is another kind of infidelity, a quieter, more insidious kind. It's a ghost that takes up residence in your home, that sits at your dinner table, that sleeps in the bed between you and the person you love. For 3 years, I have been married to a ghost. She is perfect, she is untouchable, and she is a memory. Her name is Elara, and she lives in a tiny silver cage that my husband, Liam, wears around his neck, a constant cold pressure against the heart that I thought was mine. When I met Liam, my world, which had always felt a little tilted, finally settled on its axis. He was a landscape artist, a man who saw the hidden poetry in tangled vines and weathered stone. He had a sadness in his eyes that he never spoke of, a quiet gravity that drew me in. But when he smiled at me, it was like the sun breaking through a storm cloud, and I felt foolishly, wonderfully, completely seen. Our love story wasn't a whirlwind. It was a slow, deep rooting, a love that felt as ancient and as certain as the earth he worked with. He told me I was the first bloom after a long, hard winter. I saw the locket on our 3rd date. It was antique silver, worn smooth and featureless in places from years of touch. It was beautiful, and it was always there. He never took it off. It became a part of him, like a scar or a birthmark. I naively assumed it held a picture of his late mother, a sweet tribute. For the first year, it was just a piece of jewelry. In the 2nd year, it became a question mark. By the 3rd, it had become a weapon. The change happened one night. I was woken from sleep by a sound, a small broken murmur. Liam was turned away from me, one hand clutching the locket so tightly his knuckles were white. He was whispering in the throes of a nightmare, and I heard the name, clear as a bell in the silent room, Elara.
The name itself felt like a betrayal. It was lyrical and strange. Not a name from his family, not a name I had ever heard. It landed in the quiet of our bedroom and shattered the peace forever. Who was Elara? And why did her name sound like a prayer on my husband's lips? I tried to ask him. Days later, I chose a moment of casual intimacy, my hand resting on his chest as we lay in bed. My fingers brushed the locket. "I've never asked you about this," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "It's so much a part of you. Can I see who's inside?" The warmth vanished from his body. It was as if a wall of ice had slammed down between us. He physically flinched, pulling away from my touch as if I had burned him. His eyes, usually so soft when they looked at me, were cold and hard. "Don't," he said, his voice a low, dangerous command. "Never touch this. Ever." He never raised his voice. He never had to. The finality in that single word was more devastating than any shout. The locket and the woman inside it were sacred ground where I was not permitted to tread. From that day on, Elara was no longer a name. She was a presence. I built her from scratch in the prison of my own mind. She was ethereal, tragically beautiful, probably played the cello, and was undoubtedly the great lost love of his life. I became a ghost hunter in my own marriage. Every time he would grow quiet, his gaze lost in the distance, I knew he was with her. Every time he would unconsciously finger the locket, I knew he was talking to her. I was living with the agonizing truth that I was the epilogue, the practical, comfortable, safe choice after the grand, passionate, soul-shattering love story with Elara. He loved me, I think, but he was in love with a memory. The pain of it was a constant, physical ache in my chest. I started to resent his kindness, seeing it as a form of pity. I started to hate the beautiful gardens he designed, imagining he was trying to recreate a place he had once shared with her. The breaking point arrived. On my 30th birthday, he had outdone himself. He had transformed our barren backyard into a breathtaking secret garden, a labyrinth of moonflowers and jasmine that bloomed in the evening. It was a gesture so grand, so full of love, that it almost broke through my wall of resentment. Almost. Later that night, I looked out the window and saw him standing in the middle of it, bathed in the pale moonlight. He was holding the locket in his palm, his shoulders shaking with silent, racking sobs. The garden wasn't for me. It was a memorial, a beautiful living tombstone for his love for Elara, and he had made me its unwitting caretaker. Something inside me snapped. The quiet hum of pain I had lived with for years became a deafening roar. I could not, would not live one more day as the runner-up in my own life. I walked out into the garden, the scent of jasmine thick and suffocating. He didn't hear me until I was right behind him. "I can't do this anymore, Liam," I said, my voice shaking with a year's worth of unshed tears. "I can't live with her. I can't share you. I know you love her, and maybe you'll always love her more, but I deserve to know who I've lost to. I need you to open it. I need to see her face, and then I need to say goodbye to you." His face was a mask of pure, unadulterated agony. It was the face of a man being asked to tear his own heart out. "Please," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Please don't make me do this. Anything but this. Open it," I repeated, my own tears finally breaking free. "Or I'm gone. I deserve the truth." With hands that trembled so violently he could barely work the tiny, intricate clasp, he fumbled with the locket. It felt like an eternity. Finally, there was a soft click. He didn't look at it. He couldn't. He just held it out to me, his eyes squeezed shut as if awaiting a blow. I took it from his shaking hand, my own heart hammering against my ribs. This was it, the face of my rival, the end of my marriage. I looked down, and my mind short-circuited. On the right side, there was a tiny, perfectly cut photograph of me. It was a candid shot from the day we met, my head thrown back in laughter, my smile wider than I'd seen it in years. On the left side, nothing. An empty, hollowed-out silver oval. I stared at it, utterly disoriented. Was this a sick joke? "I don't understand," I whispered, looking up at his tear-streaked face. "It's me. Why is it me? And the other side is empty. Who is Elara?" He finally opened his eyes, and the grief I saw there was so vast and deep, it felt like looking into an abyss. "The other side isn't empty," he choked out, "and her name wasn't Elara." And then the story, the real story, came tumbling out, destroying the world I knew. 5 years ago, before we met, I was in a catastrophic car accident. I was in a coma for a month. When I woke up, a huge portion of my memory was gone. Nearly 2 full years of my life, erased completely. And in those 2 forgotten years, Liam and I had already lived a lifetime. We had met,
We had fallen in love. We had gotten married. And we had a daughter. A beautiful baby girl with my eyes, named Lily. Lily died in her sleep from SIDS when she was 6 months old. The grief, he said, was a black hole that consumed everything. 2 weeks after we lost her, I walked into traffic. The accident, the coma. The doctors told him the combination of the profound psychological trauma and the severe physical trauma had caused my brain to erect an impenetrable wall, sealing off that entire period to protect me from a pain it knew I couldn't survive. His entire world had died twice. First his daughter, then the woman he had married. The name I'd heard him whisper wasn't a name. It was a lament, a desperate, broken phrase. Our Lily. I had misheard my own tragedy. He never told me because the neurologist had been clear. A sudden forced memory of that magnitude could cause an irreversible psychotic break. His secrecy? His anger when I touched the locket? It was never about protecting a memory from me. It was about protecting me from my own memory. He had chosen to live in the lonely hell of my suspicion, to let me hate him, rather than risk annihilating me with the truth. He was the lonely warden of our shared sorrow.
My legs gave out, and I sank to the ground in the middle of the garden. The man I had cast as the villain of my story had been its silent, suffering hero all along. He had been carrying the grief for both of us. He hadn't been clinging to a ghost. He had been shielding me from one. He knelt in front of me and gently took the locket. With a practiced, careful movement, he used his thumbnail to pry up the edge of my picture, and underneath it, hidden from the world, was a second, tinier photograph. A picture of a smiling, perfect baby girl with my eyes and his chin. Our Lily. Looking at her face, no memories came flooding back. There was no cinematic flash of a forgotten life, but I felt it. A phantom limb of the soul. A love so fierce and a loss so absolute that it resonated in a place deeper than memory. The wall in my mind didn't fall, but for the first time, I felt the unmistakable outline of the door. He wasn't the keeper of another woman's memory. He was the keeper of mine. And our story, I realized, was not over. It was just beginning, for the second time, in the heartbreaking beauty of a garden he built, with the ghost of our daughter finally held between us both.